knowledge is precursor to the experience, and meditation is essential to make that experience full. We understand, we're going to talk about this, that we are here for our own experience. The quantum field is an infinite field of possibilities, which are nothing but infinite field of experiences or life events. And since our thoughts and feelings create those experiences, but where do we start? To create those experiences, there has to be an original thought somewhere. So this is knowledge. So knowledge is precursor. The more we learn, if we learn about cooking, if I learn about some new dishes, then I can experience it. If I didn't, then there's no question of experience coming to life at all. If our thoughts and feelings are the ones which are collapsing the possibilities into our life, are creating experiences, it becomes pretty obvious that knowledge becomes precursor to that experience, because through that, then I am causing a new experience because I learned it, then I feel like I can implement it. Without, if I didn't learn it, there's no question of implementing. Then I would only end up doing what I know every day, because our thoughts are only within the realm of what we know. And meditation is required to experience fully, to experience with balance. When do we experience something fully? When we are fully involved. When will our experience become rich? When we are fully immersed in it, fully involved in it. We go to this waterfall. While we are at the waterfall, we'll think about another waterfall which is 500 kilometers away because we read about it. So we are here, rather than enjoying the waterfall here, experience the waterfall here, then we start talking about something else somewhere else, saying that I was there also, it is great, beautiful, while we forget what we are here. So meditation is helping us to be in the present moment, to enhance that experience fully. So these two become the key pillars of our to have for a joyful life. One side knowledge, meditation. If either of them did not exist, pure meditation, absolutely, we gain. Pure meditation, we gain. Knowledge and knowledge through meditation, only meditation we can absolutely can gain, provided at least we can silence our analytical mind. And in order to silence the analytical mind, we accelerate by learning and knowledge. Those who do not have enough of this analytical mind developed, who do not just keep questioning for anything, keep analyzing situations, then for them, meditation will greatly help them to introduce new form of knowledge through the process of meditation. But those who have a higher analytical mind has to be silenced, at least to that point of silencing. We got to keep on learning new knowledge so that we can silence it. Silencing happens when we change all of those beliefs, change that personality, reprogram that personality that we learned. The set of beliefs, set of perceptions, set of judgments, things that we make about others or the places. All of that has to be silenced for us to have limited, I don't know, drop the analytical mind when it's not necessary. And to do that, again, we have to learn. That's what we understood last week. Then, okay, then if you just regularly meditate, then meditation, then you're ready to take intuition. Intuition is driving you to go and then pick up this, that, and do that. So you actually, then you're readily following. Somebody invites you to say, hey, come join me for this trip to Himalayas. You won't think twice. You don't feel, oh, what happens to me? Is it cold? Is it going to happen? Okay, think about it, then make a decision. All those things just drop, and then intuitively you say, oh, they're calling me Himalayas, I'll go. So you start getting new experiences automatically because you followed something, because you silence the analytical mind. But the analytical mind is there, which is constantly stopping us from growing. But if we learned enough about Himalayas, and if you regularly meditate, then certainly then that's the best combination to have. Then we are accelerating our experiences because now you dropped analytical mind, so you're ready to take, and then what you learn is so exciting that automatically you're going to go and do it. That means once you learn about Himalayas, it is so exciting, then you're going to go to Himalayas and experience it. Learning, then to go into doing, Once we learn something, we won't do it. That's our experience. And the more experience we have, then slowly from that experience, we learn that fully so it is with us. If we learn in cooking, we have to practice for some time. Then it becomes so we no longer when we are next time after say 50 times, then you don't have to even think about how to do it and automatically you do it. There is learning, afterwards there is doing, and then there is a being concept, learning, doing, being. We slowly move from a learning, from a knowledge state to a doing state, which is a wisdom state, to a being state where we are automatically that. A mother can just walk into the kitchen, just put the vessel up there, not thinking about what it is. Her hand moves, and then everything can get done perfectly, and then a beautiful dish made. She won't be thinking how much spices to put and how much this and that. All of that is just taken care. That's called the being state, where you are so much in it. So now we will understand this concept of learning, doing, being today. Is a very important aspect in understanding this emotional intelligence. How the brain is learning, how this body is learning to developing a habit, becoming of it. This concept of learn, do, be. In quantum physics, simplifies and says do, be, do, be, do, be. You do it, you become of it. You keep doing it, you become of it. So the question comes, what do we do so that we can become the right thing? But needless to say, that if we learn enough knowledge, then we can get enough experiences so that the law of infinity, there are infinite ways we can enjoy, we can experience it. So we got to learn enough knowledge. So the more we learn knowledge, the more we can apply it. Right knowledge. We understand this learning, doing, being. Our brain is divided into these three areas: learning brain, doing brain, and being brain. Three are also called, from a spiritual language, conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. Not in the medical language, but spiritual language. Technical terms are neocortex, limbic system, reptilian complex. So all three are referring to the same. So significant part of this brain is that learning thinking brain, which is this entire top color. This all of it is this learning thinking brain. Learning is not reading alone. We know that. We read or we listen from somebody or we see something, right? With that. But then we're going to apply it with something that we already know. If I learn that fire burns, and when I see fire next time, I don't put a finger in it. That's learning part, right? We apply the what we take. So it's also called synthesizing, ability to take multiple pieces of information and then apply them together in a way it's meaningful. Taking quantum physics, taking neuroscience, putting it together and see how does it help me in meditation. Or how do I understand meditation through them? So all of that is this learning brain, which is the big part of the brain. As you can clearly see, more than perhaps 90% in size is all that learning thinking brain, the conscious mind. In the beginning, first week, we said we are using only 5% of this. 95% before meditation, we are projected off of the subconscious or the second brain, which is the doing brain. We're projected off of the subconscious. Because the conscious mind is so much distracted, it's got so much of these thousands and thousands of thought that are being originated based on what you got in the subconscious as a bed. So the conscious mind is so distracted that we hardly use it, and then the body has to do something, and it always is intelligent, so subconscious keep driving. Because consciously we're not able to say, let's say right now, you are here, and consciously, if you are attending to me, then you're listening and taking it. But the distractions are there, the too many thought, then subconscious is what is projecting about yesterday's experience of how great that party was, or how tough that argument was when you were with in a shop or something. So it's always projecting one or the other. But subconscious is doing it because it is a strong programmed feeling and thought that is there in the subconscious. Subconscious constantly is projecting when conscious mind is not able to take hold of it, hold of itself. And conscious mind since it's got too many distractions because it's not trained well enough, then it has so much distraction that keeps missing on from point to point. And the reason is the way that we are training our brain. And the reason is this concept of when we understand this learning, where brain, every time it's learning, it's forming the circuits. And depending on what we train with is what we learn. If I keep using my mobile phone every 5 seconds or every 5 minutes, then we are learning, we are making the brain learn to distract itself because all you learn teaching is they're forming a circuit of being with one thing and then break it away and then go back to another thing. Being with one thing and go to another thing. Being with one thing, go to another thing. Every 5 minutes, you're training it to keep break itself out of whatever it is doing. They're forming neural circuits. And then you're making the learning of the brain stronger and stronger in that area that whatever I do, every 5 minutes later, just break off because you go and then attend to something else. It starts with that noise, that music or the alarm of the phone, but you're training the brain by regularly, initially by practicing that every 5 minutes I'm going to check, or every time there's an alarm from the phone, then I just go and then check that WhatsApp message. Unknowingly we train the brain to make that area stronger and stronger, that okay, every time there is a alert, then immediately I can just deviate from myself because that's how it is, neural networks are trained. So a lot of that learning is happening initially through this neocortex, which is the thinking brain, and then the doing brain, which is, as the word says, it is doing so that it becomes stronger and stronger. So a conscious mind is bigger, but it has less concentration power, less focus, less observation because of various distractions that we have, which are coming out of various unwanted thought that we keep feeding into our mind. And as a result, so it is distracted. So naturally, and they're distracted out of what? Distracted out of various things that keep repeating. So they go into subconscious, like redundant thought. The moment you see a set of vehicles, then you think of traffic because that's what we just programmed. Just an unnecessary repetitive thought. The moment we are on a road, of your ring road, then the only thing that comes up is that, okay, there are huge buildings and huge traffic, and then we just talk about these two things. How this place was 10 years ago versus now. We only talk about that. Now, does it have, it's a redundant, repetitive thought that comes up because we programmed it, and it does not lead to anything in creation because again we got to apply everything to our thoughts and feelings create reality. So if our goal is to maximize where my thought and feelings are, that is our attention onto, then but our attention is keep going back to something that is very repetitive, redundant. So understanding this process is that learning brain is first time it's learning, and the second time you talk about it, it's going deeper. So learning to we start doing it, so it becomes repetitive, so that it moves into this second brain called subconscious. And then as you do it enough times, then we are in this third brain where we become of it, where our cells absorb everything. You say, okay, it's all there in your blood. When you use the word, it's in your blood, right? Because it is there with you. You have seen it enough. You've seen your father, if our parents are of a certain profession, right? Whether it's carpentry, whether it's music, whether it's this or that, and I've seen it again and again, that we also practice with them. So then it becomes part of it so much. It sits in your blood. That means it is there in the cells, it is there integrated, it is automatic. So the reptile brain, just from a technical perspective, the third brain or this reptile brain is connected to the brain, to the vertebra stem on top, is regulating our body autonomous functions, automatically taking care of the blood supply, taking care of the heartbeat, taking care of various cell biology operations. All of that is happening automatically without you and I being involved at all. It needs that and it's continuous. Our heartbeat is continued through that, right? So it's called total auto mode. This emotional brain is also driving in many ways us automatically. So the body gets conditioned with a lot of chemical reaction whenever we go through a emotion, like a dog chasing or me as a father-in-law shouting at my daughter-in-law. So there is this thing that emotion, if it repeats again and again, then it is stored. So the emotional brain, which is the second corner, the subconscious, is about emotional brain. Its long-term memory is emotions. There are two things. Primarily, its functioning is that long-term memory and emotions. And so clearly, the emotions which are stored in our body, and then so it keeps driving us to be. The moment we see a stimulus, then immediately it brings up that emotion. If we see, if we felt a deep loss because somebody vacated the body in our home, and every time you see there's someone carrying a body, then suddenly it flashes back that memory. Then we go back into that mode suddenly. If we see a party somewhere happening with loud music, suddenly it takes us back into that deeper experience of when we partied quite a bit throughout the night. So it's that emotional trigger, and then we, through the emotion, we recollect a lot of events, and all of that is stored in this subconscious mind, our doing brain, and then conscious mind, which is the learning. So the three brains. So it is called from learning thinking, we go into a doing to being. Each stage is more powerful, I mean, less powerful than the other. When you're doing it, then you go, I remember a lot more, right? Because you are experiencing it. Now, how is that happening? Let's go into understand a little bit of this brain science. So we have several neurons, what we call in the brain. So this is a neuron. This is another neuron. This is another neuron. So we have all these neurons, which are essentially the building blocks of the brain. They're called neural neurons, and then neurons connect with each other neuron. It's called neural network and neural connections. So a neuron connects with another neuron up to 100,000 or 1 lakh connections it can make. One neuron with another one, 1 lakh connections. So it means it can work with so many other neurons. One neuron can work with up to 100,000. Look at the power of this. If we draw a parallelism to how many people that we can work with each other at any given time, if I ask you, then you say maybe 15 people, maybe 30, maybe 50. Simultaneously working with many people connected and then actually interacting day to day, hour to hour, 50 people is a lot, right? And even day to day, 50 people is a lot. Perhaps our whole world is limited to a lot of times. But then as we evolve more and more, of course, then we are working with many more people. As we evolve more and more, as we increase our consciousness and awareness more and more, then we can work with many more people. So that is a different topic. But we're nowhere near these 100,000 connections. One cell working with another up to 100,000 cells simultaneously connected. Every time these connections are formed, it's all the whole thing is called neural network. Every time the connection is formed, then we're storing some data in it. That's called the memory. Is storing. A connection is formed for memory. So these neural networks are constantly being formed in a brain, and every time we learn, so we create, let's say we learn cooking, learning brinjal curry. So the recipe we learn. So we're making a brain or making a mind of brinjal curry mind. We're making a driving mind. We're making a mind called meditation, where we learn everything about meditation. So how to do it, what to avoid, what to do, when to do. All of that is mind of meditation. So, which is nothing but a whole set of neural connections that are there in the brain. So every time you're learning, then we are forming connections to do it. So how much is the capacity in the brain? The brain capacity is significant because 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion connections. So it's unimaginable amount of memory it has got, because every connection is participating towards memory of storing data, whatever we learn, whatever we experience, whatever we see. So the capacity is infinite. Now the question is, how do you utilize it, and what happens when we read versus when we experience? So when we read, when we learn something simply as text, for example, I put a one paragraph of bio. The bio is about, let's say, SVBISA. The bio says SVP sir, a great industrialist, great philanthropist, hails from Coimbatore. So there is that much. The three lines of simple text. We store that. We learn about it. Somebody just you just read that. That's it. So then we store when we're learning as text, simply as text, because there's no other context for it, right? Simply as three lines of text. Then we take it and then store it in a few set of connections. But the same thing, if somebody actually put a nice picture of SVB sir and then talked about it, then when we are learning, then we are associating a picture image and this text together. Brain is so beautifully organized that it takes that image, then it stores it with a set of connections, and then it associates that, okay, now this text is linked to it, then it puts there related to it. It also forms set of connections that are related. So now picture, to store a picture, you need lot many connections than what is stored with the text. Literally a million times more connections. Pictures have a lot of pixels, right? What we call. So you got to store it a pixel by pixel. So a picture is there, and if it is very rich in color, then even more you store. If the picture shows some action, for example, say a sweeper is actually shaking hands with another person is more popular, then there is some action, and we associate that action also. Okay, I saw that. Shaking hands, so must be some event. We associate it with some more extra data. The moment we associate with extra memory, oh, so he is with some bigger industrialist. So we associate that, and then so as a result, when associated, we're also storing with more connections. So the point is, just at reading three lines, let's say 10,000 connections, but then a picture with shaking hand with somebody, and then below that and say with a great industrialist, then we're storing here one is 10,000, another is a million connections. Significant jump up. Now, if you learn about him through a 1 minute clipping of a video, which is now making it more experiential for us, where in that video, this industrialist is doing a lot of great work, walking around and then actually helping some poor people or giving instruction of the business, and then his day is depicted of how this industrialist person is, right? So then we look at that for a minute of video where we are also experiencing what the person is going through. So it's an experience. So for us, it's an experience where now we are seeing the color, we are seeing the people inside, the reactions. All of that is seen in that video. So it's an experience with emotions. And then so when it is showed with feelings and emotions different, then a million will become a billion. Will be so many connections that are taken and then formed. So now about this thing is this about it's every the information ultimately gained is just the same three lines. Is an industrialist, great philanthropist, and then hails from Coimbatore, right? Now the three lines of information. One is with a picture with something which gives us more. Another is with a sequence of events that are shown. But ultimately, what is learned is only three lines on that, and that either voiceover or text came, right? But the same piece of information, one required 10,000 connections, another a million, another a billion. Now, guess what? The cells are always regenerating. So if they're regenerating, they're degenerating, they're losing, right? The cells are dying. So if we, in that see example, if 1,000 cells died, if 1,000 cells died, dear friends, after as soon as I see it, and then the next 5 minutes later, if 1,000 cells died, and in fact many more die regularly, 1,000 cells died, what happens? Out of 10,000, where you stored it simply as text, and then 1,000 died, you only have 9,000. So 10% information is gone. 10% information is gone in no time. In 5 minutes later, 10% information gone. We don't even remember, oh, Coimbatore or is it Chennai? I don't remember exactly because, some letters are gone, so 10% information is gone. You may not remember it. Whereas if storage is visual, then visual is a million. So even though you lose some, but you can construct it. You know that, right? A picture is gone, some portion is gone, but you can vaguely remember, yeah, there is a gray color. I know I've seen this lean tall person, very smiley face, I think, shaking hands somebody. So you can collect back based on a lot of things we store there. When we see a picture, we store whether it's smiling or serious, eyes are compassionate or aggressive. All that we notice, right? It's all part of our visual things. So impulses. So we store more. So even 1,000 connections gone out of a million, everything is there. We can still construct back, so we're able to remember. And then in case of experience, it's even more. We are doing a billion. So forgetting that will become long, long time ago. It's going to stay with us. That's why movies, we stay with us for a long time. And I remember because movies were so involved with an experience where we also experience it. We are in it, in a scene, like relating it to our life. So we remember a lot of these movie scenes clearly. So we say pictures are worth 1,000 words, and then making it more and more visual is even more stronger in learning and remembering. Now, all of this is good. So going further, so these neurons, so the concept is now nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So if I see once, if I hear once, then I store the one connection or some of those connections. But if I see it a second time, right now you're seeing these pictures a second time or a third time for those of you who is coming back, right, and attending this program. So suddenly you have a recall. Yeah, I remember I haven't seen this last time. So nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So every time we repeat it, then we are seeing it, and then it's sticking more strongly because we're making more stronger connections in our brain. So we're utilizing more. So million a second time you do it, the second time you notice something more than last time you didn't notice in the picture. So you'll store some more. Second time, when you see the same picture, see the same movie, a 1 minute clipping, you will notice something different. So you still store with some more. So when you every time you fire, they are wiring again with more data. Same thing again, more connections because it is just the nature of the cell. Every time you get a learning, it just makes connection. That's all. Brain works like that. The moment you get a sensory input, immediately makes connections because it's just the design to store it. Simple. So second time we see it again, another set of million connections, but also potentially more depending on how much more you're learning extra by observing, right? So like that, we relearn and then we make it more. Just the way it is there, every time you see something and then you make more connections. The second statement is also there: use it or lose it. That's also there. If we don't use it, we lose it. That means if we don't recall it, it slowly goes away. So difference. So learning is making a new connection. Recollecting is making the connection stronger. Okay. So this is how the brain is learning. Now let's apply it to this whole emotional aspect or this creation of reality. So now if you had an argument yesterday with your manager or with a colleague, when we experience something where it is an experiential learning that we have done, and then so as we do with that experience, it's all recorded once. Because as I just said, an argument which is merely a three-line text versus or a text exchange versus actually in person, let's say, we experience by doing a real argument, right? One is that, another is this. And just an email based potentially mis argument versus in person doing it, they're two different. The latter one is extremely put so many connections into our brain that we experienced it, so we have remembered it quite a bit because we've got a lot of connections to remember that particular piece of thing, right? An argument. But now, when the argument is there, we don't stop there because recollection. So we go back immediately to during our coffee break, and then we got to tell a friend. We're taking an extra walk around the building and then narrating everything again and again. So as a result, we got a second billion connections formed when you do it a second time, right? A third time you do it, another billion connection formed. So this is how the learning that you initially do one time, but then as you repeat it with so much of connection that's all going into subconscious story, becoming a long-term memory. And it becomes a long-term memory. And as a result, it's there in subconscious, and the subconscious is always projecting into our field, into our outer reality, because subconscious, you and I don't have to work for it. It automatically works for us. It is the nature of the subconscious. It is sending the signal out. It is making us behave in a certain way, making us react in a certain way. So looking at this example, dear friends, then anytime we just very casually talk about stuff, this building, this property, that property, this market, that market, or we just casually bring up an experience of the past which has no relevance or only has negative relevance, then unknowingly we are making our subconscious become stronger in that area. So that unknowingly we're making it project in that area. And as a result, it is coming and distracting us from and deviating us from what we really want to achieve. So, taking with an example, if you're reading a book, now this whole learning is equal for good things and the not so good things both. So, if you're reading a book and that book is about patience and empathy, the empathy means understand. So, if you have an argument with a colleague and the colleague did not know enough, so he just makes assumptions and then blames you. And then so there is this argument that is going on, and you also gave it back because you said, hey, you don't even understand what you're saying. You gave it back, you had this argument. And then, we always have people, right? In various places where they're irritants. We feel that way. We take it as they're irritating us because this it depends on how we take it. So because we have less empathy, less understanding that everybody's got their own way of concluding, and so they may say something. Just because they said it, we don't become of it, right? But then we take it literally because we feel as if they minusculed us, they minimized us. So we also give back. So let's say you have these arguments with somebody who is nasty, I don't know, where you don't necessarily have a great relationship, right? So every time you see the person, then suddenly the memories come, and then suddenly your body raises into that feeling. But then let's say you're actually also parallelly as you're attending this program, you're learning about empathy. Empathy and then learning about this program, which is saying that every individual is going through their own learning, their own experiences. So their consciousness has not evolved. But at the end of the day, we're all the same, we're all equal. So what's the point in trying to blame? Because they're also just evolving their own pace and we are evolving our own pace. So it is okay if someone even without understanding says something because we say, okay, let's forgive them. In my knowledge, my experiences of life will multiply when I actually work with more people because that person also can give me some clues tomorrow. So we understand that we want to forgive. We don't want to create enmity anywhere. So if you read these books and then read this knowledge about forgiveness or empathy and forgiveness and patience, then as you read this and then you're also sharing this to your friends because you like it. Every time we read something of higher emotion, we naturally want to naturally give it. It's like, when you experience a beautiful dish at home, then you want to say, hey, I wish I have my friends have it because that's our nature. When you experience something new, you want to share readily. That's nature. So something good is experiencing that you want to readily share with your friends. So you go and share that with a friend. Hey, that class is so beautiful. It liberated me, enables me to actually do more things. So you should learn about this patience concept, empathy. There's a concept of empathy to understand people as they are, as where they are, that recognizing that they are all right. Nobody is wrong. They're all evolving at their own level. So there is empathy. And so understand that liberates me rather than trying to go into a bad mood. So you tell your friend, the friend is also trying to implement empathy, and then you also implementing empathy. So you both share your notes on a regular basis of how it is helping him get better. And as we are learning these things different, so next time when you're, let's say you're meeting this colleague with whom you have this challenge, and you have two reactions. One reaction is that you suddenly again get excited, meaning that all the past emotions come up and say now you both are walking into a meeting and every time it's a constant struggle because you both argue about certain thing because you want to prove and he wants to prove. You want to control him and he wants to control you, right? Always this control is taking place. Everybody wants to control the other. We must read this book called Celestine Prophecy. Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. How every time, always people are always want to control the other person. Everyone wants to control the other person by their own emotional drama of various things. At the end of the day, two interactions without meditation that you're trying to control because I want to prove me and then you want to prove yourself. But I want to take charge of this and then so you got to, and then that's how it's between mother and daughter, between father and son. It's always happening, right? It's called Control Drama. Please read that book. But here, the moment we are both are walking into this meeting room, who is always nasty to each other, and then so, oh, today, I think yesterday was so bad. This is good. That is an opportunity. That is a way that emotion will come up. You're already adrenaline is raised, so you're already your cognitive function is not working. Your decision making is poor. So the only thing readily available is that a very slightest provocation, then you're going to just give it out. It's ready to happen, waiting to happen in this meeting today again. But tell you what, and if you're actually practicing in the meanwhile, this empathy parallelly, dear friends, and that empathy also building up a lot of circuits in the brain. Every time you're storing, sharing notes with your friends, listening to others' experience of practicing empathy, you're storing again several circuits in your brain. Right? This is also being stored. You're listening to an in-person live experience, then you're storing more. Right? Everything is about one reading versus listening, you're storing more. So this is also there. So just at the very moment of where you're about to lose your temper, this brain beautifully suddenly gives you a spark and says, hey, look, today or right now you have a different option. You can be empathetic, you can be patient today because you learned a lot of this stuff, and it suddenly gives you that because it's another subconscious as you are reading, as you're listening, and then as you're practicing empathy. So it's also going to subconscious. The subconscious suddenly gives you that flash of memory can come and see you have an option now. And then the moment you have that understanding, at that very moment, the moment the first time you get that signal and say, yes, there is patience, there is empathy that I can use, apply, then readily, dear friends, then the moment you hold on to it, and how the brain is working, when you take one thought and then it immediately pulls out all the related thoughts and related memories immediately. So all it requires is a trigger to hold on to that thing called patience and empathy in that moment. And when you get it, it is now brain is pulling all your narrations with your friend's experience, your experience of doing it again with somebody else. All of those come. So then your response is becoming stronger with empathy and patience. It's getting weaker with aggression and then another argument. It's becoming stronger in your mind. It's all happening right now because the brain is sort of lighting up all the circuits around empathy and patience. And so, friends, then once you are like fully overwhelmed with the response of empathy and patience, then naturally what you do in that situation that day is you become very patient. You're not opening your mouth anymore, saying, "Okay, let me listen in, patiently wait." So as you do that, the first day you change. Then is one time enough? It's not enough. Then you do a second time when you have another situation, then again the spark is coming. Now once you did it, then you rewire the circuit stronger, right? Learning to doing. So you did patience again, implement the patience once more. So you made those weak circuits stronger. Use it or lose it. You didn't use your aggression circuit, so it becomes slightly weaker. One is becoming weaker, another is becoming stronger. So second time you have to practice this, friends, again. As you are there, then you are making this patient circuit stronger than is weaker. This is how gradually we move away from an aggression or argumentative behavior to patient and then empathetic behavior. Now, where is meditation? All of this, dear friends. Meditation is there in that moment when you are about to be losing your temper once again. Meditation is helping us because you are self-aware. So meditation is making you self-aware to bring up that spark once about patience. That's one. That's all meditation is bringing up that spark of saying, hey, remember you got this. It makes you aware of your current options and then brings up this option for you and saying there is a patience possibility for you. The second thing meditation is helping is naturally this neural glue that supply that meditation is increasing what is called this neural connection. So it is helping you to latch on to weaken the things that are not used and then take all that supply and apply into the new neural connections you're making, because meditation helps you to make several new neural connections. It essentially removes the rigidity of these neurons and then makes it to allow it to form few new neural connections. A non-meditative mind, it cannot learn and apply new things quickly. A meditative mind, because it makes this glue, it helps you to form these new neural connections quickly. And as a result, because of these two, meditation is helping us to take a different response this time and help us to practice it on one side and make it stronger. So we're learning, we're becoming doing. So you're doing this patience a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time. You slowly we're becoming patient. And then over a period, dear friends, as you become patient, then it becomes our natural ingredient. We become patient. We no longer practice patience. We look at every situation and say, yes, I can be patient because that is the response I take. And we don't by default respond back aggressively. So whatever we experience, dear friends, whatever we really become of it, is what we most naturally allow others to have. Until that, we're not letting others to have. When we are patient, we're most naturally allowing others to develop that patience. We are ready to give it away, everything about it to them, because we have it. We no longer a feeling of survival. When you feel you're abundant, you're ready to give it. When you feel abundant, you're ready to give it. You don't worry about it. When you feel full of knowledge about a certain subject, you never worried about you losing it, because you're naturally giving it, sharing it, because you have nothing to lose, because you're already full of it. Nobody can take it away. A lot of times we stay off in this learning mode or doing mode, and so we go into the survival mode. The survival is about, okay, I got to keep it with me because I have less. When you go into the being state, we are being, we are it, and nobody can take it away. So when we are in that state, difference is when we can actually give to somebody. That's why we have to first, this whole learning being doing, when we recognize it, we stop now recollecting a bad incident, an unpleasant incident, an incident which is of no use. Because every time we recollect, we're just going and being of that. And so that's what projects it. We learn many things from this when you understand this brain, how it's working difference. So thank you very much for staying through this class.